The Salamangreat deck is basically, to a lot of people, the Monarch or Dinosaur 2.0. And what people mean by that is that you can pick up 3 structure decks and a couple extra cards and have a pretty competent deck. Now, on one hand, I do agree with that. And in today's video, we're going to show you my own deck profile that I took to locals and went undefeated with. But what I'm trying to show you guys, what we're going to discuss in today's video as we go through these cards, I think this deck actually is a lot more expensive than Dinosaurs or Monarchs, specifically because there are 2 playsets of cards that each cost around $300. We're talking about Thanos Dragon and we're talking about Infinite Impermanence. Now, when you think back to Monarchs and Dinosaurs, they certainly always had extra cards you had to buy. In Monarch's case, it was things like Karaz didn't come in the structure deck, but overall, when you're looking at those decks, you pretty much could build a pretty competent deck with just those 3 structures. And I think what I found at this locals is that it's possible to make a good deck with just 3 structure decks of these and the Sunlight Wolves. But overall, I think that you really need at least one of those 2 $300 playsets. You certainly can play without them, and I'll give you some alternatives in today's video. But anyway, I wanted to go through my build. There's not anything super crazy in here. I don't really know what I'm doing with the Salamangreat deck. I was just playing it so I could figure out how to play it a little bit so that when I play a different deck, I know how to beat it. This version is pretty much a combination of Joshua Smith's deck and Raphael's deck from both of them top the YCS Germany, and I took the parts that I liked the most from both their decks. And anyway, let's go through here. This is like a pretty good starting point. Like I said, it ran pretty well. I played almost entirely mirror matches and it seemed to do pretty well, so I'll just kind of go through it. But anyway, we have 3 copies of Gazelle, 3 copies of Spinny, 3 copies of Foxy. This card's broken. I don't know, I was watching like some profiles, and like the way that you do this card, the greatest bait is you just summon it and don't use the effect unless you like really need the effect, because just like another extender, so you really just want to have cards that push through back row. 1 Jaguar. I almost never resolved the actual combo you're supposed to do because it always got hand trapped or I just didn't open enough pieces to do it, so I never really got to use this card, and that certainly hurt me a lot. But obviously when the deck's working properly, you can actually summon this a lot, and it's pretty good. And then 1 copy of Falco. I didn't play Foul because I didn't even know that was like a card. I remember reading like 1 feature match with it. Maybe it's something worth try out. But anyway, this is like the standard Salamangreat stuff. This all comes in the structure deck. This is what you're going to want to base your budget builds off of, and I think most of the non-budget builds also play like these cards, so it's not that crazy. And then Foul is kind of cool, and I guess some people are playing Raccoon. I know Max Reynolds was playing that card, but overall that's like the standard. So I was playing 2 Lady Debug, and then one of the cards that I really liked that I guess caught on at the UDS and is also like it was in Raphael's build is Flame Buffalo. So this card's really good. I almost would play 3 and 1, maybe 3 and 2 is the right number. I think that's actually the ratio Raphael was playing, but I don't know. This card's insane though. So Lady Debug maybe in a vacuum is like better because like, oh, it actually has like a combo with it that is just like a 1-card combo. But this card's ridiculous because it digs towards your side deck cards, it digs towards your Sanctums. I'm playing artifacts in here, digs towards hand traps. This card is just so crazy, and it's also cool because some of the worst hands in this deck, in my opinion, are the ones where you just open like all Cyberus monsters, and this card gets you out of those. Even if you draw like multiple copies, you can just like get rid of it. It's so good. Like, yeah, if you draw like multiple Flame Buffaloes, or if you have like Buffalo and Debug, you can discard the other one for whichever. And the other cool thing is that when you if you just have Lady Debug and you're going second and you like summon it and they like ash you or roar you just like instantly lose, especially in the case of roar, because now you don't even have a Cyberus monster on the board, where if you go Flame Buffalo, because this effect doesn't activate until you summon the links, like you at least get the links out, which is pretty good. So anyway, those 4 sort of starter cards, they were pretty good. 1 copy of Scythe because you can put it back with the Thanos Dragon. Artifacts are broken in this deck. They seem to at the YCS in Germany to not be super popular, and I thought that was like the big edge with this deck. You guys might know that I don't like playing meta decks too much, not because I have any particular reason to hate meta decks. I personally don't like mirror matches unless I feel I can play better than my opponent, or I feel I have some hot tech that like beats all the opponents. One of the reasons I don't like playing this deck right now is because I don't feel very competent with this deck. I don't know all the combos inside and out, and like I'm not super good at managing the resources. I'm good enough to beat people, and I think that having the tech option of the artifacts in there really helps. But a lot of better players than me are also playing artifacts, so I don't think I'm actually I don't think I have like that big of edge on people. But anyway, that's my description of Scythe, it's just like an auto win card if you resolve it, and every time I resolve Sanctum, I won immediately. So that card's ridiculous. And then we go to the first playset, $300 for these fantastical dragon, Phantasmare or whatever, Thanos Dragon as most people call it. This card's crazy. You know, this is a card that when it first came out was super hyped, but it was only at about $55 per copy. Even after YCS Chicago, when everyone was playing it, it was still about $65. But after Salamangreats come out, everyone is playing this card. It's at 110 right now, I guess even more than 300. And you know what? It didn't overperform, but it definitely didn't underperform. The most useful portion of this card is the hand ability. Like when you draw, obviously when you draw like Scythe and stuff, you want to put it back, but just in general, it just evens out your hands. You can put back like the Salamangreat trap cards, so you can sign them with Gazelle. It just really helps you out, and it's also like a big monster, which is cool. One of the ways that you can just like kill Salamangreats going second is just by burning through all their resources. This is a really good way to do that. You can just, I mean, it attacks over the wolf, and they have to lynx to protect it to make sure their roar is good. Just a really good card overall. Is it worth $300? I mean, probably not. But on the other hand, whenever I'm looking at cards that are expensive, I ask myself, is there any other card out there that does what this card does? And the answer in this case is no. The closest thing is Max C, and that card's banned. So on one hand, this card is very expensive and probably you shouldn't buy it. But on the other hand, there's no real replacement for it. Unlike, when we get to in a second, there are replacements for Infinite Impermanence, and plenty of people don't play that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe I'm too crazy here. There's like 3 stages of Salamangreat decks. You can play the completely budget version with neither Thanos Dragon or Impermanence. You can play the halfway point, which is one of them, or you can play with all 6 of them. I think if you're only going to pick 3 of them to buy, I think this is the one to buy. Also worth mentioning that Impermanence is getting reprinted in just 1 month, so it's not a huge reason to sink $100 into each copies of those. But anyway, that card's really good. And then we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom, obviously. I mean, you'd play this even if you couldn't recycle it, but the fact that you can recycle it makes it a lot better. And then we have, for the spells, 3 Salamangreat Circle, 3 Call by the Grave. I think a lot of the artifact variants aren't playing this card and are playing Trap Trick instead. And I like Trap Trick a lot, but I don't know. I don't think... I'm probably just wrong here because I'm playing this halfway version, but I think this card is like good in like this version too. I just feel if you Trap Trick for Sanctum and they Ash the Sanctum, now you just like end your turn. You have no disruptions. So I really like this card. It worked out a lot. I obviously the problem is that in the mirror matches, when they have Trap Trick and I don't have Trap Trick, they'll draw the artifacts a lot more because they have access to 3 more copies, twice as many as I do of Sanctum. But overall, this card's really good, and I felt like even when I was comboing off, which I never really got the full combo off more than like twice, I think. Even when I was full comboing off, though, there's a lot of times just like if they had any hand trap, I would just like stop my combos. So this card's like really good, I think. Maybe I'm wrong though. Like I said, not an expert at this deck. 1 Sanctuary, 1 Will, 1 Fusion of Fire. This is like another reason I don't like the mirror matches because this card exists. It's cool. Like I'm glad it exists because it makes the mirror match not so much like, oh, who goes first? But it's like this weird situation where, especially as an artifact player, it's like, is my opponent going to let me... Because some of the players of the UDS were letting their opponents in the mirror match go first just because Fusion of Fire is so strong. But then it's like, do I keep the artifacts in because they're going to let me go first? But then if they know I'm going to keep the artifacts in, are they going to now let me go second? So it's like it makes side decking really awkward, but overall this card's like really good. It just makes your match look confusing. The only like crazy thing I did was main deck Super Poly. I think this card's really good, and especially because like everyone is playing Salamangreats. Especially I think that there are more Salamangreat players the lesser of a tournament you go to. So like at locals you'll find the highest percentage of Salamangreat players, and then up to regionals and up to YCSs and stuff. Obviously there's a lot of players at YCSs that are playing Salamangreats. It's a very good deck, and also it's pretty budget if you don't play with the expensive cards. But I think that at a local level where everyone or more players are on a budget, you're going to be playing so many more Salamangreats. So I just want to have 2 like auto win cards, and Super Poly truly is like an auto win card because they can't stop it. It's just way too good. And also you can like attack a couple times in battle phase and then wipe their board and attack again. We have 1 copy each of Rage and Roar. If I was playing Trap Trick, I would play 2 copies of Rage. This seems fine. I cited the second Roar for when I went first, but it seemed like okay. You don't really want to draw those cards. And then 3 copies of Sanctum. I guess this card is, this card isn't going up in price. It's Scythe, right? Isn't Scythe like really expensive right now? That's like crazy to me. But anyway, 3 Sanctum. Card's broken. Every time I drew this and resolved it, it was really good. Actually, I think I resolved it every single time I drew it. It's even good going second, which is why it's so powerful. I think that's why people are like so into into like playing Trap Trick and stuff, because like all of their monsters are so tiny when they go first in the mirror. They end with like an 1800 guy, a 2000 guy, and then like another 1800 guy. So you just like flip this, summon Scythe, and like what's cool is that if you're going second, like they probably use the roar on something else, so this always resolves. And even if they have the Asterisk, you can use your own roar, you can use Call by the Grave. This card's just really good, and I think it makes the mirror match a lot more confusing because it's like a blowout if it resolves. But it's kind of weird. I don't know. There's some like, it feels like, I don't know, it's the first time in a while that I've actually liked playing a mirror match, just because it feels like there's a lot of interaction and a lot of decision making. That's probably why I'm a little less thrilled about playing this deck at like a real event, just because I'm not super confident in my own ability to like play the mirror match. But it seems pretty interactive outside of like Scythe, which is kind of cool, playing around your opponent's cards and stuff. But playing around like Fusion of Fire would be a good idea too. I don't know how to do that. Anyway, 3 copies of Impermanence. So this is the other expensive card, the other $300 playset thing. I don't know what the exact price of this card is. I'm pretty sure they're like 80s or 90s. Do you need this card? No, you definitely do not need this card. And actually, in some cases, I don't think it actually conflicts with Thanos Dragon too much, but I know people always say that. The reason I don't think it conflicts is because if you have this and Thanos Dragon, you just do this one first. It seems pretty straightforward. And if you draw us with Thanos Dragon, it's like, oh no, you don't have like access to this because you have the Thanos on the board, but you wouldn't have drawn this card anyway if you didn't have the Thanos because it wasn't in your opening hand. But overall, I think that if you are only able to buy Thanos or this card, I'm even discounting the fact that this is getting reprinted in a month, which is still a pretty big deal. Effect Veiler like almost does its job like perfectly fine. There were a couple times when I used this, my opponent had to Call by the Grave, and like they clearly were like distraught that they weren't able to Call by Grave this. But overall, like this card isn't like significantly better than other cards out there like Effect Veiler, and certainly people have topped with Effect Veiler in their main deck instead of Impermanence with Salamangreats. It's already happened multiple times. I think in a lot of those cases they also have Thanos Dragon instead of, so that's kind of like the halfway mark when you only have a playset of one of them. But especially because this card is getting reprinted, there's no reason to like actually waste like $300 on that card. I said this kind of before in the past, but the best time to buy expensive cards is as soon as they come out, because you get the most mileage out of them. So like I bought Impermanences as soon as they came out, got plenty of mileage, or like I bought Ashes when they first came out, got a lot of mileage. Desire, stuff like that. That's kind of why I bought the Thanos Dragons, because if you can use like an expensive card from day one all the way through when it gets reprinted or banned or whatever, that's how you get like the most value out of that bang for your buck, whatever. The extra deck is like really standard, so I'll just kind of go through it fast. We have 3 copies of Lynx, 3 copies of Wolf, which I don't think makes this deck too expensive. It's not, I know probably for the players that are like super budget, it might hurt them that they have to spend like $30 for like 3 cards, but I think overall it's like fine. 2 Heat Leo, it's pretty good. One of this card's nuts. This is a card that like in testing, or like in theory when I was doing test hands, I was like, I don't know if this card's that good, and some people aren't playing it, but this card's insane. Update Jammer, I don't play Transcode, I just play the Borload. The Transcode thing is like cool. I think it's a little gimmicky. Borload is just really good, and yeah, that's won me a couple games, so I like that a lot. Anytime you can like, I don't know, this deck sometimes has problems breaking boards of monster cards going second. I think this is like the best way to do it, other than like bouncing it with the horse. Like you don't actually have a lot of ways to like deal with monsters. You have lots of ways to deal with back row, but not so much monsters. One of this card literally never even thought about needing the second one, never came up. 1 Dweller, never made it. I hear that a lot of deck profiles, people don't make this, but when you can make it in the mirror match, it's really good. And then I played 1 Violet Chimera, and then because I was maining the Super Poly, I wanted like, just in case I played against Thunder Dragons, to have this card. I'm pretty sure that I should just play 2 Violet Chimera. I know it sounds crazy, but like I think it was just because I never really got like the full combo, because I always just got hand trapped and didn't have the Call by the Grave, so I didn't have access to Jack Jackalope that often, or Jack Jaguar that often, which meant that a lot of times I wasn't able to put this back and I had to make some awkward plays. But there were like 2 different games that I would have won way sooner if I would have had a second copy of Violet Chimera, but it's fine. I'm sure when your deck's like working properly and you can actually recycle the card, it doesn't matter too much. No, I think the card I had to cut for the Predaplant was Nightmare Phoenix. I didn't really miss it. For the side deck, which is I think literally just Joshua Smith's, except for like 1 card different because I mained the Super Poly. 3 Dino Wrestler, 3, I think he actually played Droll, I don't quite remember at this point, but 3 Lancia, because that Orcus deck is picking up so much steam at this point. Like I'm just so afraid of that deck. It's so scary when it goes off. 2 copies of Fusion Fire, because when you go second, then you have like 4 cards that you can draw. They just like, this card's just so degenerate. It's so ridiculous. Like they have to roar it every time, but it's not a use once per turn, it's an activate once per turn, so you can just like use a second one. I don't even know why it's like that, because all of the other Salamangreat cards, or most of them, are used once per turn, so if they negate them, you can't attempt to use them again. But this card isn't like that, so it's really good. And then we have 3 copies of Twin Twisters for like a back row decks, and then 3 copies of Reboot and 1 copy of Roar, and that's kind of it. Yeah, I think the only difference, I guess I was playing Joel at some point, but I played the second Roar because I wasn't main decking it. The Roar basically is when you go first, you like want to have access to it, because sometimes, I mean, they just like hand trap the Gazelle a lot of times, they hand trap the Horse a lot of times, so my combo just like never really fully, like the full combo where you like set the Roar and you get to add back a card with the Sunlight Wolf, like literally only happened a couple times, just because everyone's playing so many hand traps now. And there was even a game where I got cherries for the Sunlight Wolf and I still was able to win. But anyway, that's sort of my Salamangreat analysis, my deck profile, just sort of my first impressions with the deck. Like I said, I'm not a genius with this deck. It's not like Ultrageist where like I know exactly what I want to do and I can fit in like crazy text. I just want to play something standard so I could get a feel for how the deck works. Nothing wrong with that, at least in most players' perspective. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Goodbye.